Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez. America's favorite late night talk program featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. And if you want to join us by phone, feel free to give us a call on our late night national town hall conversation, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. Now, today was the big day, right? Devin Archer, the former business partner of Hunter Biden, set to testify in front of Congress in a closed-door deposition that was not under oath. So a lot of people are wondering, does it even matter, right? Is this actually a thing? Can we rely on what was said? But I can tell you, you can absolutely rely on this because you know why? Because I watch this stuff. No. I don't mean I'm some sort of expert. I remember Representative Dan Goldman. Right? I remember when he was, quarterbacking for, what's his name? Schiff for Brains. And he was vicious, but he was on point and he was sharp. And that was the key. He was on point and he was sharp. But today, the same Dan Goldman that took so much joy in impeaching Donald Trump was out there running interference. He was so nervous. I mean, so nervous. I saw this. They had it on TV. He was sweaty. He was all over the place. He didn't have an answer. He couldn't remember what to say. People were asking questions. He was, oh, yeah, thanks. Oh, yeah, exactly. Oh, I mean, he was so all over the place. This house of cards that these guys have built is falling apart right in front of them because little by little, there's only but so much you can get away with. And people are getting nervous. And good old Dan Goldman, man, let me tell you, he was like a fish out of water, right? He was just really flopping around, flipping around. It was really a tough thing to see. But he was there, and he had to confirm that Joe Biden spoke with Hunter Biden's business associates. But, he says, listen, no. Look, first, of course, and I won't play all the audio for you, but I remember watching it. He said, look, if Hunter took a call and the call was on speaker, of course Joe Biden heard if he was there. That's what happens when you're on speaker, right? Trying to normalize every situation. Did they talk to any of the businesses? Well, of course they did. If your dad's president and you're one of your business partners or your friends is on the phone, like, hey, can I say hi to your dad? He's vice president. Hold on, let me see. Dad, will you come and say hi? All right, yeah, there you go. This had nothing to do with it. It didn't matter if we were doing business and getting millions of dollars. And what about the vice president taking a trip to Ukraine? Well, no, because, he was going there because he wanted to pretend that he had influence and he was trying to make it look like he was taking credit for what Joe Biden was doing and that he somehow, but he was just building a brand for his lobbying company. It's all he was doing. He was just trying to, he wasn't selling influence with his dad. He was just trying to make it look like he could influence his dad. I mean, how dumb do they think you are? Anyway, listen to Rep. Dan Goldman.
The witness, Mr. Archer, was very clear that Hunter spoke to his father every day. And he indicated that he approximated about 20 times over the course of his 10-year business relationship that he had with Mr. Biden, with Hunter Biden, which would be about twice a year, that Hunter would put his father on speakerphone with whomever was at dinner, and there was no indication that he had any idea who was at dinner with them. It was just a say, hello, I'm at dinner here, and there was nothing related to his business dealings.
Now, if you expect the world to believe that, then hey, look, I've got a couple of bridges for sale, and I'll cut you a good deal. But he went on. He went on to let everybody know that it's a preposterous premise to suggest that Joe Biden shouldn't talk to Hunter's business associates. Now, listen, nobody's saying that he shouldn't. The question here is, things are happening, right? There was a prosecutor going after Burisma for alleged corruption. Joe Biden went to Ukraine and told the Ukrainian government, if you don't get rid of the prosecutor, you're not going to get the loan guarantees that you need from the United States. And as he's telling the story, and you guys have heard this audio, right? I don't have to play it for you. And Biden says, son of a bitch, right? They did it. And I left 7 hours later or whatever it was on his plane. I mean, this is, we'll play it tomorrow if you don't remember, but this is classic audio and video of Joe Biden, saying he's not doing anything, but yet he's doing something. So you've got Dan Goldman now saying, oh, it's preposterous to think that they shouldn't talk to each other. It's funny. When I worked in the government, they made sure that I didn't accept a cup of coffee that was offered to me if it came from Starbucks. But I could accept one from Dunkin' Donuts because it'd be less than $5, and $5 was the threshold where I had to avoid even the appearance of an impropriety because I was an official in the state government. So how could the standard be so much higher for me, a guy in state government, than it is for, I don't know, the vice president of the United States at the time? But Dan Goldman says it's preposterous. Listen to this.
Contradict the president's statement saying that he never talked to any of Hunter Biden's business associates. Clearly he talked, whether it's about the weather or whatever, but he said specifically that he's never talked to them. Doesn't this contradict them?
I don't know what his comment is, and if we're gonna, well, I don't think that's what he said. He never said that he has never spoken to anyone. He said that he had nothing to do with Hunter Biden's business dealings. If he says hello to someone that he sees his son with, is he supposed to say, hi, son? Oh, no, I'm not going to say hello to the other people at the table or the other people on the phone. It's kind of a preposterous premise to think that a father should not say hello to people that the son is at dinner with, and that is literally all the evidence is.
Now, what's preposterous here is this. It is preposterous to think that we're arguing over the vice president saying hello to people at a dinner table. Nobody's alleging that he said hello to people at a dinner table. People are alleging that there were millions of dollars exchanged for influence and for favoritism. So this idea of I didn't say hello, who came up with that idea? The preposterous premise came from Joe Biden, who said he's never spoken with anybody. He said it. He said he doesn't know what he does. He doesn't interfere in any of it. He doesn't get involved. So when you say one thing and then there's evidence to the contrary, you have to be able to explain it by other than saying, oh, well, I was just saying hi to everybody at dinner. How do you explain getting to Ukraine and this whole ordeal? Oh, well, right. Now there's a little bit of an interesting story. And it gets even more interesting, of course, when Dan Goldman, I don't think we have this final cut, but when he was done, he said something very interesting. And he said he spoke with Mr. Archer when the Republicans left the room. Now, of course, he wasn't under oath, so he could do that. But it's fascinating, right, that, you would wait till the Republicans leave the room to then have a sidebar conversation and then go outside and talk about it. I think that the whole thing, it really does, it stinks. I don't buy it for nothing. It sounds like a fake, phony, fraud story. Because if that were the case, right in the beginning, 3-4 years ago, when they started saying, you're selling influence, Joe Biden would have come out and said, listen, folks, other than saying hello to goodbye at a few people at a dinner table on a speakerphone, being polite because of my son, I've never talked to anybody in my son's business. Right? He would have clarified, made it very clear that he's never been involved and never done anything, and he never went to Ukraine. But no, Hunter made it look like he was doing something that he wasn't doing, saying he wanted to take the credit for it. And this is the cover-up. You know what they say, the cover-up is always worse than the crime. And here we are. Anyway, don't move a muscle. Keep it locked right here. There's more to come straight ahead. We have a lot to discuss.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Well, thank you, Rich, and thank you for everything. I know you very well, and I listen, but I have a lot of people that listen, and they love your show, and I appreciate it very much.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, America, welcome back. And we're talking about Devin Archer, his testimony that wasn't under oath, all of the crazy stuff. But to me, the biggest takeaway here was the sweat-induced speech given by Dan Goldman at the end of this testimony, where he was just squirming all around like a fish out of water. And to me, it was incredibly telling. Like, if you had any doubt, reasonable doubt in your mind that, did Biden do it? Are they really doing it? Is it just the Republicans going over? Well, I don't know. After you saw their lawyer, so you seem like their lawyer, Dan Goldman, squirming around like that, I think, man, guilty as sin is what I see. But I want to get to continue this conversation with somebody who's down there in the swamp. He knows what's going on, and he always has a great opinion on what's happening. Hogan Gidley's former deputy press secretary for the Trump administration. He's still with them today, and he's with us right now. Hogan, welcome, sir.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate the time.
You bet. So, what do you think? What do you think of Dan Goldman's spin session after the testimony today?
So many things to say about it. You've talked about the sweating, of course, but did he slip in there that they were just talking about the weather? Didn't he say something about? Oh yeah, they were just talking about the weather. It made me think of Hillary Clinton when she said, "Oh, those classified emails, that was just yoga routines." That's all that was. Obviously not true. They weren't just talking about the weather. And, look, I remember during the Russia collusion hoax nonsense the Democrats were spewing. And you remember how they would come out of those meetings, the in-private briefings, and they would go right to the cameras, the Democrats, and they would say, oh, yeah, stone cold evidence. Donald Trump, we got him, bombshell, dead to right.
Adam Schiff.
All the information. And Republicans would come out and say, I don't know what they're talking about. There's nothing like that in there. Well, it turned out, of course, all the Republicans are right and the Democrats are wrong. So I'm sorry, but I think they've spent up all of their goodwill when they come out of these things and try to tell you what happened inside the meetings. So forgive me, but I'm not going to believe what the left has to say about these things, especially Goldman on this. He was also, if I'm not mistaken, pretty high up in that impeachment hearing the first time around as well, spouting what we now know is absolutely false, and he was in those meetings, and he knew it was false. So the guy has zero credibility whatsoever. And one more thing I think is really important to note, kind of doing some research here, and look, I traveled all over the world with the president, went on several foreign trips with him, was in the room across the table with Donald Trump, with President Xi, in the room with Vladimir Putin, Zelensky, all the major players. And one of the things that's interesting about those foreign nations, if you know anything about them at all, what they think requires help or assistance is just meeting or talking to a dignitary. So in China, for example, if you want something done from the government and you get a meeting or you just get to see or talk to someone high up in communist China, that's an implication that you get protection from the government. You're going to get what you want.
Mm-hmm.
So all of these foreign nations that are meeting with Hunter Biden and Joe just happens to show up on a phone call, to them, what that means in their culture is now they got what they need. Now they got everything they need from the government. They knew that. I mean, Joe Biden knows that. Hunter Biden knows that. So they were clearly working the system here to try and get the money. And as we take a look at this whole thing, I'll kind of end here. Just by the numbers, we've got 20-plus phone calls with Joe Biden and Hunter Biden. You have $17 million to the Biden family, 21 different shell companies, over 170 suspicious activity reports from banks. These aren't partisan organizations. These are banks that deposited the money for the Bidens. The WhatsApp message with Hunter telling Chinese officials, hey, daddy's right here. We want our money. Don't forget, he's sitting right here. a text message from Hunter Biden to his daughter saying, boy, I really hope you don't have to pay for the family just like I had to do my whole life. I won't make you do what Pop did for me. All the 10% for the big guy. We have all this information. If you notice, the Democrats aren't impugning the messengers. They're not imputing the message. They know it's all ironclad, tough evidence. What they just say is Donald Trump. What they just say is Republicans. They won't talk about the actual information or the evidence because they know it's good. And so when Devin Archer comes out, does his comments today in private, we'll get the transcript, I guess, later in the week. It's not the first guy to talk about dealing directly with Hunter Biden and with Joe Biden. Remember Tony Bobolinsky came out on the record at great peril to his reputation, to his future business endeavors, all those things. He came out publicly and said, yeah, I work with Hunter. And yeah, Joe was part of it. So this is now an exclamation point on the sentence and the sentiment that Joe Biden and Hunter Biden are raking in an untold fortune from foreign nations. And quite frankly, it's probably in violation of many laws.
Folks, we're on with Hogan Gidley from America First Policy Institute and former deputy press secretary in the White House. And Hogan, when you were in the White House, I worked in state government, so I'm going to guess that working in the federal government and being a presidential appointee, there was some orientation you had to go to where they told you about the perception of impropriety. Is that true? Like you weren't allowed to do certain things, take 100%. Gifts from people?
Oh, sure.
Right. I'm at a loss for words because I think, how does Joe Biden, vice president of the United States, not know that saying hello to some people on the phone, as he's indicating, that his son is doing business with, is not, when he's a lobbyist, right? How is that not perceived as somehow improper?
Well, I think they know it's improper. I mean, look, Joe Biden's not the brightest bulb by any stretch. Ask any senator who served with him. And in large measure, they kind of discounted him for years. It's just kind of a rube, self-aggrandizing rube. But he does know some of these things that could potentially get him in trouble and avoids them. You know, he may have not said something directly on the phone, but that doesn't mean his mere presence isn't going to get Hunter exactly what he wants, i.e. get Joe what he wants for the family, which is money.
The big guy.
The big guy, a lot of money we're talking about, $17 million we know about. I mean, this has gone so deep at this point. I have long said this Hunter Biden investigation is a problem, but if you pull on that thread the right way, it's going to turn into a Joe Biden investigation pretty quick. And it seems like that's where it's going now.
All right, Hogan Gidley, stick with us. We're going to come right back. I want to get your thoughts on the new poll on the economy, Joe Biden's economy. And we're coming right back with Hogan Gidley, former deputy press secretary at the White House during the Trump years. Of course, he's with America First Policy Institute. And we're coming right back. Don't move a muscle. I'm Rich Valdez. All right, everybody, welcome back. We're on with Hogan Gidley, former deputy press secretary for the Trump administration, and he's doing a heck of a job at the America First Policy Institute. And Hogan, there is a new poll out, CBS News poll, that says most Americans think that Bidenomics isn't very effective. 56% agreed with 61% described the economy as struggling. 51% agreed and said the economy was uncertain. 36% said we're in an unfair position, and 27% that this economy is punishing them. So things aren't looking good for Biden on the economy now. What are your thoughts on how that plays out? Do you think it maintains and into, I don't know, October, September of next year?
All indicators are it's going to be a kind of a stagnation situation where we're not really moving forward that much, if at all. I'm not shocked that the American people equate Bidenomics with bad things. I thought it was stupid for the White House from a press standpoint or a PR standpoint to come out and try and tether his name to this crippled economy. They're looking at the same polls everyone else sees, and it's pretty clear that the American people don't like what Joe Biden has done to the economy, doesn't like the record high inflation, record high interest rates, doesn't like the fact we're paying more for gas and for groceries. That's all on Biden's watch. I mean, one of the things that's so infuriating is, Joe Biden came into the White House and, changed all of Donald Trump's policies, whether it be with the border, with energy, or anything else, bragged about it. And then when it all falls apart, he acts like he had no role in it whatsoever. In fact, a lot of times he looks around and says, these things are just happening to me, but they're not. They're happening because of him. And
Right.
Everyone understands that. And so when you take credit for doing everything the opposite, and we were so successful under Donald Trump, it all falls apart. What did you think was going to happen? And so then the another funny part of that was they put Bidenomics in the name like they had some brilliant idea, like this is the first time anyone ever thought of adding economics to someone's name. And I'm like, Reaganomics? I mean, it's not new. And then they do it in a time when people are struggling, and you're making $7,000 to $10,000 less per family per year under this president. Obviously, wages have gone up, but inflation has far outpaced any increase in salary. So you're losing money. Forget the baby shortage formula for a minute.
Yeah.
But remember that whole joke about it's Putin's energy crisis. Like Vladimir Putin had something to do with it. Well, Biden stops energy production here at home. We were energy independent under Donald Trump, energy dominant. And even if Putin was to blame, even if he were, let's just cede the point for a minute. Wouldn't that be the reason not to rely on a foreign nation for our own energy? If Vladimir Putin could cripple us that badly and force Joe Biden to go to the Saudis and beg for more production and for lower prices, which didn't happen, of course, because they don't respect him. That's the reason not to rely on dictators and despots all over the world for our energy. So I think it's dumb for the White House to try and put a little name on Biden's economic plan and try and sell it as though it's good for the American people when we know better.
Yeah, 100%. Now, the other day I was talking to an economist, and from that perspective, we had a discussion on this. But I want your perspective, because you ran the press shop in the White House, and this is what you do, and you understand how things are with public opinion. But do you think there's somebody advising Biden saying, look, if we talk about, we call it Bidenomics because we want you to own the economy. And then somebody says, hello, the economy's not doing great. Why would we want to own that? And then somebody else says, don't worry. By the time the election comes around, inflation, people will be numb to it. We'll be able to report that we've lowered for the last 15 months, we've reduced inflation, and, we'll let go of another 1 million barrels of our strategic reserve, bring gas prices down by 50 cents, and cruise right into a re-election. Do you think there's somebody advising Biden this? Because somebody made that argument to me, and I thought, I don't think the American people are that forgetful. But what do I know? You're the pro.
Well, here's the one variable that I think you're not taking into account, if I may be so bold. You're correct in the fact that people will be numb to a lot of things by then. And remember, campaigns, there's a lot of fighting, a lot of mudslinging, a lot of back and forth. But you can't really fake
being
message
broke.
What the American people, yeah, exactly, what the American people are actually feeling.
Yes.
Here's the variable, though: the media. because the media is so in the tank for Joe Biden. They cover every little thing good as if Joe Biden solved every global problem. But then everything that's bad, they just cover it up. And as you know, bias occurs in two ways. It's what you cover, so it's what you decide to cover or what not to cover, and then how you cover it. And so anything with the economy, the press goes all in the tank for Joe Biden to try and tell you, the American people, hey, no, you really should be feeling this way because it's so good for you out there. The problem is, and I think the person you were talking to is incorrect, and you are correct, is that the American people know better, because you can't, excuse the euphemism, but it's an old one, you can't pee on my boot and tell me it's raining. They know what's happening to them. They feel it in their pocketbook. They understand when they leave the grocery store spending $200, it doesn't go nearly as far as it used to. They don't have as many grocery bags. They understand that. They know that crime is going through the roof. They know all of these things are related to Joe Biden and his policies. It's just the media is going to put in overtime, because they're going to have to, because Joe Biden's such a failure, to try and sell a bad product. It's just, it remains to be seen whether or not the American people are going to buy it. Right now they're not, and I hope they don't come close to November next year.
Yeah, I agree with that, Hogan. I think the media, and it's just, I guess it's fear, right? I get nervous when I think, you start saying things, and because people tend to believe what they hear in the media and what they see on TV, and they read in the Washington Post. And, and I just think, but put your hand in your pocket. Like, just do it. Just try it. And I was, telling the audience a few days ago, I bought a used car, and I feel like I spent a lot more money than I should have on a used car for my daughter. And I'm thinking, I can't be the only person that's going through this, where we're spending way more on everything to the point where, I hope we don't get to a point where we give Biden a pass and just go, well, it was a global pandemic. Now it's a global inflation, and it'll pass. It's going to take some time. It happened to Reagan too. This is what I hear people telling me, and I'm thinking, no, this is a direct result of our government spending and Bidenomics, right? He wants to own it. He needs to own it, and I'm just hopeful that the American people just don't forget too soon.
He wants to own it. Let's hang it around his neck. Let's make him own it, right? I mean, he's trying to, so you can't run away from the bad parts of it. And that's the thing. And you're right. Look, the left controls all the major levers of power and influence. Hollywood, colleges and universities, the media, of course, and big tech. So they're going to put in overtime trying to tell the American people not to believe their own lying eyes, right? Listen to us. We know better. Right. But I just think the policies are hurting the American people so badly at this point. It's going to be very difficult for him to recover from that. And look, his age, his feebleness, his inability to get through sentences and thoughts and press conferences and everything else, that's all part of it. But when we're really talking about the ramifications of any administration, it's the policies. What do the policies do to make your life better, or what do the policies do to make your life worse? And I work at a place called the America First Policy Institute, because I believe in policies that are proven to put the American people first, to put our interests first, and then help grow the opportunities for every person in this country, regardless of race, religion, color, or creed. We don't have to guess if they work. And remember, under Trump, people would talk about how good things were, and under Biden, they're so bad. But, we used to have to point all the way back to Reagan and say, wow, look how great it was under the Reagan years.
Right.
This is 2 years ago we were experiencing these record highs and record successes. So I think the American people are going to want that back. And Joe Biden, look, you lose elections when you surprise the electorate. And, everybody knew Clinton was a dirtbag. So when he got caught doing what he was doing, no one cared, right? Read my lips, no new taxes. And then Bush raises taxes. It surprised the American people. What the people were told in this country was that Joe Biden was just good old Uncle Joe. He was the adult. He'd been doing this forever. Right. What a nice guy, right? No scandals, no nothing. Now as these things start to come out, stories about him being jerks to his staff and yelling at people, his forgetfulness, his inability to to bring together the Republicans and Democrats like he said he could. His inability to garner any support or love or respect on the international stage, and his failures up one side and down the other, and now the scandals with his son, that surprises people, and they don't like those types of surprises. It's going to be a problem for him. Yep.
I agree. Folks, we're on with Hogan Gidley, America First Policy Institute, and straight ahead, we're going to get his take on Trump vowing to support primary challenges against any Republican lawmaker who refuses to impeach Biden. I think that's a pretty good idea. We're going to get to that one straight ahead. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, we're back with Hogan Gidley, and we're looking at some lawmakers who are vacillating on whether they should impeach Joe Biden. Now, it seems to me that President Trump was impeached frivolously and over much less. These allegations, in my opinion, are way more serious than anything that they claim Trump did, including the final impeachment, which was ex post facto. He wasn't even in office. But there's reports that say Trump is vowing to support primary challenges against any Republican lawmaker who refuses to impeach Biden. Hogan Gidley, what say you?
Well, it's not lost on me that we opened this with Congressman Goldman, of course, who headed up the impeachment hearing against Donald Trump, and knowing the evidence was all nothing, it wasn't real. But it should be noted, too, that there is a certain level of irony that Donald Trump was impeached over a phone call with Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine, talking about looking for corruption between Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, and Ukrainian officials. And here we are today with the evidence coming out by the Republicans pointing to the corruption Donald Trump was asking about from years ago, and it all looks like it's really bad for the Bidens, of course, politically, but most assuredly legally, because they could be under some serious indictments, some serious investigations, some serious trouble. So if Donald Trump can get impeached over a phone call, I don't know why a sitting president could not be impeached over profiting off his name from foreign nations, which is a clear violation, of course, of federal law, not to mention the fact just the rampant immorality of lying consistently about knowing anything about your son's business dealings when you, in fact, were the linchpin in all of it that allowed him to rake in these millions of dollars, these bags of cash, and distribute it out to the family. So I understand what Donald Trump's saying here. And I think from what we've seen so far with Speaker McCarthy and others, it's not off the table. You don't want to get into a situation where the person coming into power is always, is always going after the one who was there before, and vice versa, and the I'll impeach you, you impeach me type thing. Right. But at the same time, you should use impeachment when it's legitimate. And they did not do that with Donald Trump. It was all illegitimate. It was all based on a lie. And now we have someone in office who has a history and a record of doing things in violation of federal law. And a person who's been a public servant this long, been in the U.S. Senate, been in Congress this long, to have that kind of money and these different properties, et cetera, calls into question some serious ethical violations, and I would argue legal ones too.
Yeah, Hogan Gidley, I think you're spot on. And for me, it really highlights the fact that you've got these guys, like you said, coming full circle, They impeached Trump again to, in my opinion, cover up the questions he was asking about Ukraine. And here we are, years later, sending all this money to Ukraine with this endless conflict in Ukraine, and we're still more cover up from the Democrats. Hogan, I'm out of time here for this segment. Are you able to stick around for one more segment? Because I wanted to nail one more thing down. If not, we can let you go. I just wanted to double check.
Sure, we can take care of it. That's no problem.
You got it. All right, folks, we're coming right back with Hogan Gidley. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, to the phones we go. We have someone with a question for our guest, Hogan Gidley. Let's go to Mike in Jamestown, New York on WJTN. Mike, go right ahead.
Hey, sir, I love your show. I listen to it whenever I can. I appreciate you.
Likewise.
So it seems like all this Biden stuff, their crime family, occurred when he was vice president. Biden was vice president.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's just, I don't understand. If he was the new number two guy, usually when there's a problem, the number one guy is mentioned anyway. I've never heard any mention of Obama's name.
You're right, Mike. He was the president. Nobody asked him a single question. He's so far, they think the big guy is Joe Biden. Be curious to see if there's actually another big guy. Hogan Gidley?
Yeah, what's interesting about that is this is how long we've been, talking or even thinking about this Hunter Biden situation. In the federal government, when you're putting someone through the paces and getting them ready for a Senate confirmation hearing, you put them what's called a murder board, and you sit them down in a room and you fire off tough questions and try to get them ready for whatever a senator may ask them in a hearing. Well, one of the subjects that a lot of the the Obama officials had to be ready for was Hunter Biden. They knew he was a problem way back then. It was Obama's Justice Department that was concerned. It was Obama's FBI that had information about this pay-to-play scam, this whole trafficking in his name situation the Bidens were kind of doing, and it seems as though it was kind of a common practice and commonplace thing that a lot of people in Washington knew about at the time. So it's a legitimate question to ask of Obama, what part did he play? Did his DOJ protect Joe Biden? Remember, the weaponization of these three-letter agencies, our government, it's not just about who they prosecute. It's about who they protect. There are two kind of issues at play here when the left is protected by the government, and then a different level, a different set of rules when they go after everybody else. So the elites are protected in a lot of ways. The rest of the American people are not. And so it's a legitimate question to ask, and I would hope over time we get to the bottom of it one way or the other. If Obama's involved, we need to find that out too.
That's right. What did Obama know? When did he know it? Folks, Hogan Gidley was our guest, AmericaFirstPolicy.com. Follow him at @JHoganGidley. Hogan, I want to thank you, brother. Appreciate you.
Anytime. Thanks so much.
You bet. Folks, more to come straight ahead. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Your liberty-loving Latino amigo, happy to be with you on this Monday evening. And again, if you want to join us on the phone, feel free to give us a call, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. A couple of headlines very quickly. The deposition that we just broke down in the last hour, again, was today. Devin Archer did testify before a closed-door session of Congress. We don't have the transcript yet. We're awaiting it. CBS News now has a poll saying 65% of Americans view Joe Biden's economy as bad. And in another headline, this is an interesting one. Police officers are now being considered to become police officers in Illinois. And this is an interesting proposition. There's a measure, House Bill 3751, that passed the Democrat State House and Senate before being signed into law by the governor. The bill, which will become law in January of 2024, allows eligible immigrants who are not in possession of U.S. citizenship to join law enforcement in Illinois, something that federal laws currently forbid. And to get some reaction to that, we've got an excellent guest. She's been on the program before. It's always a pleasure to have her. She's the spokesperson for the National Police Association, Sergeant Betsy Brantner Smith. Sarge, welcome.
Hey, Rich, thanks so much for having me to talk about what's happening in my native Illinois.
It's crazy. It's crazy what's going on. I know some in Congress are kind of, taking exception. Lauren Boebert, amongst those, saying that this allows illegal immigrants to become police officers in traditionally blue states. I'm wondering, is something being lost upon us? Is this a ploy to further employ the illegal immigrants? Or is this something like the DREAM Act, where people are saying, well, if they were already here, we'll let them in. They don't have citizenship yet, but they only know America. What's the story on this?
Well, so again, this is House Bill 3751 that J.B. Pritzker, our governor, signed into law. It'll take effect January 1st. And what the law says is that if you are legally authorized to work or you're here under DACA, that you can become a police officer in Illinois. Now, first of all, and you already said it, this goes against federal law. Federal law currently says that if you're an illegal alien, you can't become a police officer with the power to arrest people. Now, I want everyone who's an American and listening to this to ponder this. Do you want a person who's a foreign national, not a citizen of this country, to be able to arrest American citizens on American soil? So that's one of the things. Now, of course, we talk a lot about guns these days, and federal law also says that to become a police officer, you must be able to obtain, purchase, and possess a firearm legally, which illegal aliens can't do. I view this as an extremely slippery slope, and that's kind of an overused term these days, but this is the slipperiest of the slippery slopes. I was an Illinois police officer for 29 years. I am born and raised in Illinois. I fled a few years ago, but when I became a police officer at age 21, I raised my right hand and I took an oath to what? The Constitution of the state of Illinois and the Constitution of the United States. Now, our people who are already breaking the law by being here, are they going to be as vested in this nation as you are, as I am, as other Americans are? And so, again, this, and I think this is born out of, well, first of all, Governor J.B. Pritzker is just a far left, dare I say, lunatic, and that's my opinion. But look at what's happening in Illinois. First of all, Chicago, 50 people shot this weekend. And that's a typical weekend for Chicago. That's not in the least bit unusual. Chicago is currently in the middle, very sadly, currently in the middle of a horrible crime crisis, and a terrible migrant crisis. And the residents of Chicago are starting to really rebel against the sanctuary city status in Chicago. So is this the governor's way of dealing with that migrant crisis that we're seeing, not just in Chicago, but in other cities and in rural areas around Illinois? Is this a way to create chaos, additional chaos around the state of Illinois? I'm not really sure, but I want people to think about the last 3 years, the vilification and the demonization of the American law enforcement officer. And what have you been hearing? We need better cops, better educated cops, better trained cops. Now, again, we're defunding them, so they've taken away lots and lots, millions and billions of dollars from American law enforcement departments. But is this the way we're going to have the best of the best educated cops, the best trained cops, is to recruit and hire people with perhaps limited language skills? We can't really do extensive background checks on a lot of these people because people come here as migrants with no papers, no birth certificates. We're not able to even talk to people that might have been their teachers or their neighbors, things like that. So that background check is out the window. They're violating. Yeah, well, it is crazy. So, we're given illegal driver's license. Some get to vote in local elections. Some get to serve on things like school boards and things like that. And now we're going to make them. We've already made them nurses and allowed them into some other professions. Now into law enforcement. Now what? Again, the slipperiest of the slopes at a time when the American law enforcement officer is already beleaguered, vilified, and abused.
Sergeant Betsy Brantner Smith, I find this problematic because I realize that you don't have to be a citizen to serve in the United States military, but you do need a green card, right? And this goes a step beyond that. It's not just, green card holders, permanent residents of the United States. We know who they are. They've been through the interview process. There's a plan in place. But they're saying it's any DACA participant or anybody who just has a work permit. And that's really interesting to me because there are people that have work permits where the work permit's only good for 6 months. And so, presumably saying you could be here on a work permit where it's only good for 6 months and you could apply and then get a permanent job. And then what? You're here permanently. It seems like a backdoor way, right? It's to skirt the permanent residency requirement that the military has. And I think all of this, ultimately, this is just, and you tell me what you think about this. I feel like there's the citizenship or naturalization through military service where there's a way to go through that process if you served or had served in the armed forces. I'm wondering if they're trying to mimic that with getting them to lower the standard to allow them to become police officers to then similarly try to create a naturalization process that way. What are your thoughts?
Well, and you just said the key phrase, and that is lowered standards. Mm-hmm. The process that the military has utilized for quite some time to give immigrants a way to become legal citizens through military service, very different than doing it through law enforcement service. Again, for we can go back to 2014, where the war on cops really started, Ferguson and all of that.
Sure.
The Obama administration, what did they want? We need cops that are college educated. We need them to be the best of the best. And they've got to be able to do everything from de-escalate a situation to deliver a baby, handle domestic disputes, make traffic stops, but don't shoot anybody or don't use any kind of force. And you've got to know the law, absolutely, every law in your state, every criminal law in your city, et cetera, et cetera. We put all these restrictions and requirements on the American law enforcement officer. And again, I want everybody to think about this. when a cop is out there doing their job, I don't care if they're with the NYPD or they're with a one-man sheriff's department in central Oklahoma, they are making life and death and very often $1 million decisions largely on their own.
Yeah.
Shouldn't we be
and
raising
in a second and a half?
Exactly. So shouldn't we be holding these people to the highest of standards instead of passing a law like Governor Pritzker just signed that says we're going to take people that have likely lied? Because again, the vast majority of our illegal immigrants right now have done what? Lied about lied about amnesty. They have lied about why they're coming to this country, right? They're trying to get a status that they do not deserve. They have broken federal law. They have crossed the border illegally, and we're going to give them a gun and a badge, and we're going to give them the power to pull you over, an American citizen, while you're on your way home from the studio, and to potentially take your liberty away and potentially take your life. Is that what we want?
Yeah, it seems like a backdoor way to do what they're trying to do, which is scary to me. Folks, we're on with Sergeant Betsy Brantner Smith. She's the spokesperson for the National Police Association. She's with us for another segment, and we're coming right back.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, America, welcome back. Our guest is Sergeant Betsy Brantner Smith, spokesperson for the National Police Association. And we got a couple of callers with questions and comments for Sergeant Smith. So we're going to go ahead and check in with Todd. Todd's in Atlanta, Georgia, WGKA. Todd, go right ahead. You're on with Rich Valdez and the good Sergeant, Betsy Brantner Smith.
Hey, yes. Well, thank you for bringing this issue to light. And I just wanted to mention just a few months ago, we had a situation with the Chinese Communist Party operating police stations in New York City to harass dissidents. And also wanted to mention, the cartels. What's to stop the cartels from sending people in and putting them in the police force in Illinois, working their way up to police chief maybe? And with the Chinese Communist Party, they can send people in. I mean, this plan is just insane. And are there any legal challenges that you know of that are going to be taken against it?
Great question, Todd. Thank you for the call. Sarge, go right ahead. Well, yeah, I mean, Todd brings up so many great points. Here's the thing. Is this going to be challenged in the courts? I believe it is, because, again, remember, you're violating federal law by allowing this. The state of Illinois is. So I think that we will see this work its way through the courts. But we also know that that system is very slow. It's arduous. So, Todd is absolutely right. Everyone from terrorists to anti-American folks can come or be sent to the state of Illinois. And again, there's a similar law in California to be able to become police officers. And, we already have an issue in many of the blue cities in the United States. Chicago is one of them, where we see street gangs infiltrate the police department. We see other crimes. And when he talks about the border, I'm sitting right now about 60 miles from the southern border here in southern Arizona. And the cartels are a big part of our life here in southern Arizona. And to have them make their way to Illinois and have other states adopt this and then have them become American law enforcement officers, it will destroy our American law enforcement system. And it kind of makes you wonder, is that the end game that the left really wants to do? Because again, we've seen the complete demonization of the American law enforcement officer since 2014, but especially in the last 3 years, wrongly so. When you look at the actual facts and statistics, is this just one more nail in that coffin? And can we fight it? Because we're going to have to fight it. The American people are going to have to fight this, and I sure hope the people of Illinois start the ball rolling.
All right, we're going to go to Judy in Pittsburgh on KDKA, America's oldest radio station. Judy, you're on with Sergeant Betsy Brantner Smith and me, Rich Valdez. Go right ahead.
Hello, Sergeant Smith, and I want to thank you for your service. I felt the same way. You know, they're just letting people come into our country, give them control. How do they know they're not terrorists? How do we know our country's not going to be taken over? They don't know. And my nephew just graduated. He went for 4 years of college. He just graduated here in July under criminal law to be a state trooper. And I have a cousin that's been a state trooper in Baltimore for 30 years, and I have a stepbrother that's a state trooper in Butler. And it took them a lot of training to carry this job. And Biden's just letting people come in and take over our country. Who do we contact to stand up for you? Because I will.
Thank you, Judy. Sarge, go right ahead.
Well, Judy, from a law enforcement family, I love that. And you know what we want? We want people like her nephew, 4 years of college, and then he says, all right, I want to become a state trooper. She has other state troopers in her family. I happen to be married to a state trooper. And this is what we want, high-level, highly educated people to do the job of law enforcement all around this country. And so who do you contact about this? Everyone can go to the state of Illinois' website and get Governor J.B. Pritzker's email address, send him an email and tell him what you think of this. But here's the thing, everybody. In your own local area, you know, we get kind of eaten up with national politics here in the United States. Who's going to be president and all that? You have got to look at who is on your city council, who is on your county board, who's on your school board. All politics are local, and local is what controls your police department.
You're right, folks. That was Sergeant Betsy Brantner Smith, National Spokesperson for the National Police Association. Sarge, thank you so much.
Great to be with you, Rich.
You bet. Folks, stick around. There's more to come straight ahead. Don't go anywhere.
Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
So earlier today, I continued my tradition of going to the Cuban restaurant to get my espresso coffee in the morning. I went with my brother today. Now, of course, if I haven't announced it, the restaurant that I go to is sold. And the Cuban family sold it. I believe they're trekking to Florida. And a new family bought this place. And they're slowly changing the menu from Cuban food to Ecuadorian food, which is fine. I think they're not going to change the coffee. So I continue to patronize this place, but minus the political discussion, or so I thought. Because I went there today and there was some political discussion. My brother started asking the new owners, what their take was on certain things. But what comes to mind was the conversation split off into what do you think of the economy? And the economy's tough. And, they were split amongst the owner and his wife on he has another restaurant and this restaurant and also does some other work. And she was saying, I'd rather just get a good paying job rather than create a job for myself by way of opening this restaurant, because this is, hours and hours of work every day, and there's no vacation time. And, she just seemed like, I could probably get a better deal somewhere else. And it made this topic so real because according to a survey of small business owners by Walmart Business, only 22% of business owners felt they were taking enough vacation, with 41% of them saying they needed to be at work in order for their company to run. 36% of them said they couldn't afford the cost of vacation. And ultimately, 36% of them said they took one or no vacations over the last 2 years. Finally, 21% said they get some time off, but, once a year, it may not be what they anticipated. So what happens when the boss becomes burned out? How does that impact the company? How does it impact morale? And what's the best way to deal with boss burnout? Well, we're going to talk with somebody who knows how to address those questions. Eric Eager is the CEO of 4 Impact Data, and he's with us to talk about boss burnout. Eric Eager, welcome, sir.
Yeah, thanks, Rich. Thanks for having me on.
You bet. So let's take this from the top. If you got somebody, and again, small businesses run the gamut, right? You've got some guys that are like, in New York, they run a bodega. But then you've got other people in other places that may have a restaurant or, a small, plumbing company. There's so many different small businesses that kind of make America operate. And it doesn't matter what kind of business you're in. Ultimately, you're going to put in a lot of hours and you're going to burn yourself out. How do we manage this, Eric Eager?
Well, it's it's hard. Anybody that has run a small business can tell you it is not easy. Mm-hmm. And one of the things you run into is that in the stages of growing a business, the kind of the first stage is you're in this kind of survival mode. And a lot of times, myself included, I've had some successful businesses and not so successful. In every one of those cases, it's been this, I just didn't know what I didn't know. And so a lot of times you're concerned about, first of all, when you start the business, you have a passion for it because you're trying to hang on to that American dream of being your own boss. But what they don't tell you about is when you start your businesses, that you're the last one to get paid because you've got all these people now depending on you. And, and so what happens is a lot of times is that, we studied and looked at one of the, what is the contributing factor? What are the things that can change the probability of success for business owners? And it was having access to wisdom and experience. Because I don't know how many times you've heard, so many business owners don't know what they don't know. So what we try and do to compensate for having these experience gaps from running a business is that we just put in the extra work and we put in the extra time. And all of a sudden, the business can't run without me. It's not going to work right. I've got to be there all the time, and I'm going to put the extra hours in to make the difference up. Well, the problem with that is then all of a sudden you are spending 60, 70, 80 hours a week in there working, and you can never leave. And eventually, and just coming out of COVID and everybody doing everything they can to survive, is that now all of a sudden you've got these owners and business owners that are experiencing burnout. And this was happening before even the pandemic. And so things that you can start to do, one of the things we find is that business owners a lot of times, and this is common in new leadership and new business owners, that you feel like you got to have all the answers. You got to be able for your team to have every answer to everything. And honestly, a lot of times is that you don't, and you have to ask for help. And so some of the things you can do is mm-hmm. People want to be part of building a business. In today's world and in America, everybody wants to be part of building something. So as a business owner, if you can have those open conversations and start to include your team as part of the business, you can kind of start letting go. And basically, everything's built on trust. And so as a business owner, as you start to kind of trust your team and involving them in the decisions, and I understand, running restaurants and running plumbing and running these types of businesses, and small business it can be, a single, solo entrepreneurs, they call it, but it can, according to Small Business Administration, they still say, I think it's approximately $50 million a year in revenue is defined as a small business. But in each one of those cases, you go from what I call the survival mode to the thrive mode. And every entrepreneur that I've talked to has had, extremely successful businesses that have gone on millions of dollars. They all talk about those survival days and what lessons they learned. So a couple of things that the business owners can do as well is that, so many of us repeat the same mistakes as everybody ahead of us have. We seem to continue. That's why having these experience gaps and helping business owners. So as a business owner, what you can do is that first and foremost is get a mentor, get somebody to help you, because then you're not going it alone.
Right.
And so the minute you go and you talk to somebody who's been there, done that, has blazed that trail ahead of you, don't make the same, as I tell friends and everything, don't make the same dumb mistakes I made. And I made the same mistakes as I talked to a number of other CEOs, and we all seem to repeat the same mistakes. So don't repeat those same mistakes. Get a mentor. And as you're starting to experience burnout, one of the things that can be a big help is you talk to that mentor, and then they can tell you it's okay to talk to your team. It's okay to share and get input from the team, because guess what happens is that you start to give and extend trust to your team, they'll extend trust back to you. Now all of a sudden, as you need to take a day off, you can trust that team member's there, and now you've built that relationship. You've built that level of trust, and now you can have a comfort level. You leave that, the shop or the store continue to operate without you being there. And that's kind of one step to start kind of relieving that stress level.
Right.
You had a question?
Let me just pause right here. Eric Eager, we're going to take a quick pause. We're going to come right back and wrap up our conversation on burnout for business owners. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, folks, welcome back. We're on with Eric Eager. He's the CEO of 4Impact Data, and we're discussing burnout for business owners. Now, Eric Eager, excellent tips that you've offered thus far. Tell us, anybody who wants to follow up with the work that you're doing at 4Impact Data, how do they find you?
Go to our website, and as you would expect, it's the number 4impactdata.com. And, really, we have started a company with a whole mission of changing the odds for business owners so we can, give them a greater chance to survive and thrive. So there's a bunch of experienced entrepreneurs who have built successful businesses and are really simply just trying to pay it forward. So we've worked and built a lot of things kind of best lessons learned, and we codified it so that, with the whole idea of helping, kind of fellow entrepreneurs and help business owners not make the same mistakes a lot of us have and increase their chances of building a great business.
And give us the website one more time.
Okay, it's www.4impactdata.com.
All right, folks, you've heard the address. Eric Eager, thank you very much for putting some much-needed attention on this topic. Hope to have you back again soon. Godspeed to you, sir.
Same thing to you. Thank you, Rich. Appreciate it.
You got it. All right, folks. Now, we talk about burning out, and this happens everywhere, right? It's not just business owners. And I'm looking at an article that I saw on burnout for business owners. And there's a number of things that, both Eric Eager pointed out and others that we can do. And I think ultimately it has to do with just making sure you carve out that time, right? I was a business owner for many years, and I can tell you I was burnt out because you start to develop a different type of work ethic, and I think it's only known to those that have been in the entrepreneurship space, right? So, for example, if you own a restaurant, whether it's a diner, fine dining, a banquet hall, whatever, you're going to learn very quickly that it's a lot of work, right? You've got to buy the food, you got to prep the food, you got to cook the food, you got to display the food, deliver the food somehow, whether it's to a countertop or, through a delivery service. There is a lot of work entailed in this enterprise. However, it's not as simple as other businesses. And I think this is why so many people become statistics, right? In the restaurant business, at least, they say 90% fail in the first 5 years. But that's not exclusive to restaurants. I think that is a real problem that everybody who is a small business owner faces. And that's why it's so important to make sure that you figure out how to manage your time. I think, unfortunately, lamentably for those that are in business for themselves and still need to do everything and wear every hat, it's that they've figured out how to create a job for themselves, but it's one where they don't get any vacation time, right? And then ultimately it's like if you don't work your 14, 15, 16, 18-hour day and do everything you've got to do, you may not be able to survive, right? You've got to do all those things. So it becomes very, very problematic. So that's why I think the onus is on you, the business owner, to say, look, no matter what's happening, come hell or high water, I will do X, Y, and Z and make sure that I get, my recharge. I get to take that break and prevent burnout. And straight ahead, I want to talk a little bit about burnout, but how it affects everybody else, right? We're talking about burnout for business owners, but the reality is there's a lot of burnout out there that a lot of people are dealing with, and that's a problem. So don't go anywhere, folks. We're going to get to your calls and more straight ahead. 833-4-VALDEZ, 833-482-5337.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Well, Mr. Valdez, you have one of the greatest shows that radio's ever had.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, America, welcome back. I got to tell you, I'm going to be very frank with you. In a moment of vulnerability, which is really a strength, right? Because you've got to be willing to be hurt when you're being vulnerable. And when I hear people like that, just that audio clip coming in, it was Tony Orlando, right? The legendary Tony Orlando. She Wore a Yellow Ribbon and all those other amazing songs that he's sung over the years. And when they say things like that, I have one of the most amazing shows. I am so moved by that stuff. And half the time I'm like, oh, stop. Not because it is embarrassing me, which it does a little bit, but more so, I don't even believe it. I'm just like, come on, you're putting me on. You're like a industry legend. And it just really does move me. I'm grateful to him. Big shout out to Tony Orlando and each and every one of you that's ever paid me a compliment. I'm very appreciative of it. Now, I just wanted to say that. I also want to let you know, today is, every day is like National Something Day, right? And today, it's National Avocado Day. Yeah, I bet you didn't know National Avocado Day, or in Spanish, aguacate. But today is National Aguacate Day, and I think that's funny. I didn't know that. It's also National Mutt Day, which is also celebrated again in December. And believe it or not, there's something called National Raspberry Cake Day. Yep, that's an actual thing that I bet you didn't know about. But I'm sure, okay, maybe you did know. If you knew about it, you let me know when you call in. Let's go to the phones. 833-4-VALDEZ, 833-482-5337. And again, a quick reminder that Open Phone America is coming up right now at the top of the hour. So you want to make sure you get your calls in so that you're not on hold till the end of the show and you don't get a chance to get on. You want to call in early, always, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. And another quick reminder, the Podcast Awards, right? The People's Choice Podcast Award. We've been nominated for that, the podcast of this program, America at Night. And I'm honored for those of you that are willing to register your email to vote, to make it a fair voting. And if you want to vote and at least register your email so that you can vote, all you've got to do is go to podcastawards.com, podcast awards, plural, podcastawards.com. And there's a little blue box right towards the middle of the screen. You click on that. It says nomination and register to vote. You register your email to vote, and you, your spouse, your children, everybody that wants to vote is eligible to vote for this program. You have to type my name in, Rich Valdez with an S. Then you scroll down, and it will ask you to select the program. Our section where we were nominated is for our coverage of government and organizations. So you would go to the government and organizations section. Once you're there, there's a drop-down menu. You click Rich Valdez, America at Night. You hit submit, and that's that. Once it's time to vote, they'll send you a link for the voting, and you'll be able to vote. So that's that. Now, I also, there was something else I wanted to remind you of, but it's escaping my mind. But we will continue straight ahead. We're going to have a very robust Open Phone America tonight. I'm thrilled to pieces to connect with all of you. It's Monday, and after a couple of days off, I need to hear from this amazing audience. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'll give you the number again, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. And you can always type your comments or sentiments on any of my social media pages. Feel free to do so at Rich Valdez with an S on all of the social media. So don't go anywhere. Just keep it locked right here. We're coming right back. I am Rich Valdez.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Happy to be with you. This is hour number 3 of our program, where we open up the phone lines for everybody on any topic, a long-lived tradition here on this program, and I invite you to call 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ is the phone number. And man, where do we start? So much to talk about. We'll continue on all the topics we discussed tonight, right? We talked about the potential illegality of what's going on with Hunter Biden. His former business partner, Devin Archer, went on the record, gave testimony in a closed-door deposition under subpoena from the United States Congress. And we don't know what he said. They will release the transcript. We do know that he was not under oath. He was there voluntarily and did not get sworn in under oath. So some are, saying he can still face perjury charges even though he wasn't under oath. I don't know the legality of that. We'll have to check with one of our legal experts. But I just find it interesting that that's the case, and that we've got so much mounting pressure, mounting evidence, really, of Biden being involved in one way or another in his son's business. Now, I can tell you this. My dad was never vice president of the United States. But I would go to my dad with, I've had a couple of businesses. I've had a barbershop. I had a cell phone store and my audio company that produces my podcast, stuff like that. But ultimately, I can tell you that I never really had very in-depth conversations with my dad about my business because I didn't want to have those conversations with my dad, about business per se. But I could see if I were a lobbyist and I wanted to influence public opinion on behalf of a client, that I may very well talk to my father, who is a sitting vice president of the United States and a former United States senator. It makes all the sense in the world to me that they would have those conversations. So I'm not shocked in the least at Devin Archer's testimony. I am shocked that Dan Goldman, the Democrat who gave the response afterwards, tried to spin everything, making it seem like, no, we did everything right. Everybody was good. There was no problems. It's you guys. It's y'all. Right? You guys are the ones that messed up. So anyway, that was that, right? And other news, we have a survey that is studying which or what makes the perfect sandwich. I want to get to that. And again, I see that there are calls. We have calls from all over the place. Iowa, Missouri, South Carolina, another area of South Carolina, Charleston. So we are going to get to all of those. I'm just bear with me. I wanted to go through this because I want to get your take on it as well. There's a study that finds what makes a perfect sandwich. And 2 in 3 Americans, 67%, say they could live on sandwiches alone for an entire week. The perfect sandwich, according to this survey of 2,000 Americans, consists of tomato, cheddar cheese, and Black Forest ham by the measures of 54%, 39%, and 39%. The survey also found that the average American craves a sandwich 4 times a week. I got to tell you, I crave, that's probably accurate for me. And the sandwich that I crave comes from a royal place. A castle, a white one. And yes, those little sliders, murder burgers as some call them, let me tell you, that is my craving. I give into that stuff at least twice a month. And I've got to cut that out because I think I'm gaining some weight. But that's what it is. And it seems that the best solution for your taste buds and your wallet is a sandwich. 42% said that in the poll that they're actively looking for ways to cut down the cost of food, with sandwiches being the best money-saving option. 67% of respondents are able to save money that way, and that's according to the survey conducted by One Poll on behalf of Buddig. So that's the story. Now, those ingredients on the meat side were tomato, cheddar cheese, and Black Forest ham. But on the condiment side, it's barbecue sauce, mayonnaise, honey mustard that topped the list at 58% and working its way down to 26%. So that's what's going on in a sandwich. Now, I'm wondering what you guys think. Let's hit the phones real quick and get your opinions on the record. Let me see here. All right, let's go to Kristen. She's in Charleston, South Carolina, WTMA. Kristen, what's your favorite sandwich?
My favorite sandwich is peanut butter and jelly.
Oh, my gosh, that's mine, too. And, Kristen, what do you want to say tonight?
Okay, I think Biden is a bad president because he's getting away with all this stuff, and I just think Trump is going to be a better president than him, and so yeah.
All right, now, Kristen, you sound kind of young. Do you have ID?
Huh?
Do you have some ID? Like voter ID? Anyway, for a young person, you sound really bright and you sound very smart. And I agree with you. I think the proof is in the pudding that clearly Trump was a better president. The economy proves it. The situation in Ukraine proves it. The situation in Israel proves it. I mean, just look around the world and things were better on every measure, in my opinion. And factually, if you just look at it, things were better. And yes, peanut butter and jelly. Now, I'm going to teach you something that you may not know. And it may gross some of you out, but the way to do peanut butter and jelly is on white bread. All right, you have to do it on white bread. That's not racist. That's just what the recipe calls for. And you do the peanut butter and jelly, you got to do a triple decker peanut butter and jelly. So it's even distribution. Peanut butter on one side, jelly on the other. Peanut butter on one side, jelly on the other. If you have to do one extra ingredient, you're going to do one extra side of jelly so that if you squeeze it a little bit, you might squeeze a little bit out on the sides, makes it more fun, right? Then you cut it diagonally. And once you've cut it diagonally, then the reason you cut it diagonally is because it fits better in a glass of tall chocolate milk. Now you're wondering, why would I put the sandwich in there? Just the corner, you dip it in there. That chocolate milk with this sandwich, it's the ultimate. I mean, it's like tons and tons of sugar, and I don't recommend it. But let me tell you, I did that as a kid, and I loved it. And everybody made fun of me for dunking my sandwich, but I couldn't help it. It was the best way to eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Anyway, Kristen, thank you for your call. I appreciate it. We are IDing you next time because you just sound incredibly young, but you are a scholar and a gentleman, and a genius nonetheless. Anyway, we're going to get to the rest of your calls momentarily. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
I want to listen to you, Rich, all the time.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
So, of course, there's no question that you guys remember that song that goes tequila, right? That was, of course, a big song back whenever it was big. But it was also like the Pee Wee Herman dancing song. And the actor who played Pee Wee Herman, who fell into some heat when he was, accused and I think caught, getting handsy with himself in a adult movie theater. He passed away. He had a battle with cancer and he lost that battle. Rest in peace, Paul Rubens, comedian, who's a funny guy. And I saw something on social media the other day that said, when we were in high school, we made fun of guys that wore bow ties and tight high water suits. And now all your kids are dressed like that for the prom. I thought that was so funny because literally that's what's in vogue right now. But Paul Rubens, R.I.P. And, thinking of entertainers, it brings to mind this controversy with a rapper who I am fond of. I know to your chagrin, but I am fond of the rapper Cardi B. All right, Cardi B is a Trinidadian, Dominican-American rapper from the Bronx, New York, who makes multi-millions of dollars every year. She's very vulgar. She used to be a stripper. She even admitted to drugging men that were in the strip club and then robbing them. Real humble beginnings to say the least. And she was doing a show at let's see, was it the place in Vegas? I'm forgetting the name. But as I open this up, she was doing the show there and performing to a track, which means they play the song and she sings along. And she was on stage and somebody threw their drink, and you could see it. You could see the drink in the shot, in the frame. They, kind of jolt the cup up, and the contents of the cup, which were ice cubes and some liquid, go flying out directly onto her, like onto her shoulder, onto her hair, while she's in the middle of like performing, kind of leaning out towards the crowd. And she was very angered by this and saw, she saw who did it because it happened right in front of her. So she took her microphone and threw it at the person. Well, the person was ejected from the concert in the nightclub or whatever. It's not a nightclub, it's a day club. It was like a pool party or one of those Vegas parties during the day. But ultimately, they're saying it was a woman that threw, that Cardi B threw her microphone at a woman. In the video, it honestly looks like a man's hand. So she might have been a really large woman. But she now has reported a battery charge to the authorities. But it says here the police aren't arresting anyone. So Vegas police told Yahoo Entertainment and Insider that no arrests or citations have been issued. Some social media videos show Cardi B throwing the mic after a drink was thrown on her, and others don't. And this is interesting, right? So when I saw the full video on Instagram, or at least the exchange, between the microphone and the ice and all that, and the ice comes first. But interestingly, I went I had seen it come in as an alert on a social media platform, and I was really disheartened by the comments, right? A lot of people were saying things that, in my opinion, were very unfair. And I don't think that we should, I don't believe this happened because of politics. I really don't. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you'll say, no, because if she were a Republican, she would have blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I really don't know. I can't say any of that with any degree of certitude. What I can say is I would probably have done the same thing. Right? If you're on stage and somebody tosses like ice cubes and a melted Diet Cola, after you wipe it off your face and whatever and take it out of your hair, 'cause that's what happened to her, I'm pretty sure you're going to want to return the favor one way or another. So if you're holding something in your hand and it's a microphone, hey, I mean, it's not lost on me that that's a real response. And the comments that I saw, and again, this was a conservative social media site, but I felt so bad about it. I was like, man, that's tough. A lot of people condemning Cardi B like she deserved it. She's wrong. This is what I'm thinking. Come on, this is a woman working, doing what she does, performing live, and then a heckler in the crowd that wants to hurl some ice. There's no way to, I mean, you could say, oh, be the bigger person and just take your ice hurling and shut up. But, I mean, if anything, I'd say I was attacked. I was assaulted when they threw the contents of their cup at me. I don't care if it's water and ice. That's enough. So anyway, I'm just curious to know what you guys think in America. What would you have done if somebody hurled ice and a soda at you, and not even a brand new one, one that somebody else was drinking? That's just like, I don't want that. So curious to know your thoughts on everything. Let's see, where do we go from here? We've got calls from all over the place. We have Mary. Mary is calling from St. Joseph, Missouri. Mary, welcome. You're on KMA out of Iowa. Go right ahead.
Howdy, it's so good to hear your velvety soft voice.
Oh, thank you. Likewise.
Well, I think I wouldn't do anything. I would probably just say, well, you're a good shot. But I think that was very rude for the person to throw it. And they certainly deserve to be removed, but, you probably wouldn't get me on a stage anyhow.
Yeah, right. And I'm not, I want to clarify. I'm not saying it was right. I'm just saying I probably would be just as angry and hot-headed in the moment and do the same thing, even though it's, as a professional performer, we probably all should take a breath and maybe call security, point the person out, not throw an expensive wireless mic at them. But I do think I would throw a tantrum that way and say, "What'd you do?" You know, I think that's what they would hear. But anyway, Mary, what's on your mind tonight?
Well, first of all, it is, you were talking about Avocado Day. Well, it is also World Anti-Human Trafficking Day in Iowa.
I didn't know that.
Yes. So the state of Iowa is making note of it, and they're encouraging people. They have a hotline. If you want to go to KMA Land, their website, you can read about it. But I thought that was interesting. I didn't know there was such a day.
Me either. I didn't know. I do know, quick story. There's a big podcaster named Sean Ryan who had Jim Caviezel on his program, who's the star of that movie, and he posted it on YouTube, and YouTube made him take it down, or it took it down for him, and it's gone, and his interview is not there, and he's being silenced, so we're going to be bringing him on the program tomorrow to talk more about it. But it just amazes me that there are so many people that are, willing to suppress the truth of what's going on with child or any type of sex trafficking in America, including child sex trafficking.
Yeah, well, they noted that it isn't just that they, carjack women and that type of thing. They actually get to know the people that they're going to traffic and kind of suck them in and a support, like they're a support system. And before they know it, they're into it. So
That's
it's
horrible.
very devious.
Well, I thank you for pointing that out, because I didn't know that. And I do think if you ever get on stage, I agree, you should probably not throw the mic. But if you do, make sure you have good aim so you don't miss.
Okay.
You bet, Mary. Thank you for the call. I appreciate it. Folks, we're going to continue with the rest of your calls straight ahead. The phone number, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. And remember, if you want to chime in online, feel free. You can drop a comment at Rich Valdez with an S on all of the social media. And you can always vote for the podcast, Rich Valdez, America at Night, at podcastawards.com. And it just walk you right through registering your email to vote at a later date. Don't go anywhere, folks. We're coming right back. The rest of your calls and more. 833-4-VALDEZ, 833-4-VALDEZ.
Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
My family, when they want to get an important message to me, they tape it on the mirror of the bathroom. I'm serious, not a joke.
So you wake up in the morning and...
Yeah, no, it's on the mirror. I guess I was down early on. It's not going to be 10 years ago. I was down or something. And my daughter Ashley taped on she's a social worker, taped on my mirror. Happiness is something to do, someone to love, and something to look forward to. And Dad, you have all those things.
Let me tell you, I hear that, and I want to be entertaining and informative and make a joke out of that. But when I hear that, it really reminds me of things I did with my own dad that had a brain injury, and subsequently he suffered from traumatic brain injury related, or what they call TBI related dementia. And I'm not saying that's Joe Biden all the time, but that was my dad much of the time. And in the beginning, it wasn't. He drove, and he was great at lots of things, and little by little, he did less things. And I feel like Biden's going down the same path there. It just is a shame to see it happening. It really is a shame more than anything. And it's a cause for concern if you are a vibrant American that wants to see their country succeed, right? But that's the story with Joe El Baboso Biden. And I want to get your opinion on a couple of things here. let's see. Where do we go here? We've got a few things here. Let's go to Bill. Bill is in Jefferson City, Missouri. KTTR is the station, and Bill is also known as the resident historian on our program here. Bill, welcome.
Hello, Rich. How are you this wonderfully moonlit evening?
It's wonderful. Let me tell you, it's been 90-something degrees most days in New York. It was 80-something today. I feel like I'm in one of the Carolinas. It's beautiful.
Well, anyway, what I wanted to talk to you tonight was you had mentioned Leon Panetta, the newly appointed CIA director of Obama back in May 2011, and something he said last week with regard to Hunter Biden, and that piqued my interest. But anyway, I wanted to tell you about a great movie, a fictional movie that starred as Panetta, James Gandolfini,
Tony Soprano,
famous actor who's dead, and he played Panetta to a T in the movie Zero Dark 30, the killing of Osama bin Laden. Anyway, there's a famous photo by Pete Sosa, who was Obama's photographer at the White House, of them in the Situation Room. And so Gandolfini really played the part in this fictional movie quite well. And I think the heroine of the movie, I believe her name was Myra, just did a great job. And I'd recommend that to your audience to take a look at that sometime. And think about Leon Panetta and what he says. That's really my thought for the evening.
Outstanding. Now, let me ask you something, Bill. If you're on stage doing your favorite rap song, your favorite vulgar rap song, and I know you probably don't have one, but just in case you did, and somebody throws a melted, half consumed, extra large size Diet Coke, and the liquid hits your shoulder, the ice cubes hit you in the face, and it interrupts your entire performance. Do you throw the mic at them, the one that you're holding, or how do you respond?
Not a good mic. No. Mics are too. I have done stage stuff on occasion, and in my younger years, and don't think we've had anything confetti perhaps thrown at us, but nothing like that. So I wouldn't sacrifice a good mic for the audience.
Understood. Well, you're a better man than me, Bill, in Jefferson City, Missouri. KTTR, thank you, brother. I appreciate the call. And we're going to continue with the rest of your calls. Let us see. Where do we go? Actually, should I pause here? Maybe I will. I'll take a quick pause here. We'll come back. We'll continue on the topics that we're on. I am Rich Valdez. Again, the phone number, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
My hands across America to the liberty-loving Latino, Rich Valdez.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, America, welcome back. And we continue with the conversation we're having. I want to get your thoughts on a few different things. And it was a story from last night I brought up. I'll bring it back up in a moment. But I want to go to Paul in Zanesville, Ohio, WHIZ. Paul, Go right ahead. You're on with Rich Valdez. Welcome.
Hey, good evening, Rich. Yeah, with that mic incident there, you know what? I'd have took that mic down there and shoved it right down her throat. You know what? Yeah. I was raised with an old man that he was a mean sucker. I mean, he was a southpaw boxer. He was a mean dude, and I kind of get that a little bit from him. If somebody threw that in my face, that's kind of like spitting on me.
While you're working,
that.
though,
You're there to see
right? That's like while you're feeding your family. I was shocked too. Yeah, I'm with you, brother. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I mean, you don't do something like that. Yeah, well, she's there working, making a living, and I guarantee you, probably 98% of the people in the audience, they like her, and this girl or whoever it was that did that, I'd have had a problem. I'd probably had to have security come and get me, because that's just the way I am. I don't know. I don't have no New Yorker in me. I'm not from New York, but I'm from a small town, like Aldine says.
That's right. Try that in a small town.
Right, Jack.
Yeah, I'm with you.
All right.
I am with you. Thank you, Paul. I appreciate it. Let me tell you that I totally would. I feel like I would have done the same thing. You just don't do that to a person, especially when they're trying to earn their living. I think that that's totally wrong. Paul, are you still there? I want to ask you another question.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What do you think of this Devin Archer stuff and this guy Goldman coming out all sweaty and wringing his hands and looking all nervous after the deposition?
Well, number one, I can't understand why he wouldn't be under oath. That's the first thing I'd have to think about. And it just seems like that, I don't know, maybe that it's a cover-up. It's a cover-up for Hunter Biden and Joe Biden. I don't have very much faith in Joe Biden. I'm sure I wouldn't hate the man personally, if I ever got to know him or whatever, or met him or whatever. But I just think it's a cover-up. These people are guilty. The facts are there. They've tried all this stuff on Trump. None of it's worked. None of it's worked. None of it's worked. Now the Democrats, they're shifting the narrative to where they're saying, okay, well, Donald Trump did this, Donald Trump done that. Joe Biden hasn't done a thing when Trump was proved not guilty of all this, impeachment and everything else. But it seems like they're kind of, like the lady said earlier, they're kind of, it's a slope. It's a slippery slope. And I just don't think that the media is covering this enough, because I believe the Bidens are guilty as HE double hockey sticks. And I just wish the media would cover it better. But I have to listen to shows like yours to get the truth. That's how I feel, Rich.
Thank you, Paul. Man, you're a very kind man. Thank you very much. I appreciate your observations. They're really, I think, on point. And I agree with you. I think that there's a lot of perceived criminality here, and we've got to get to the bottom of it. We're going to continue. I see calls continue to come in. We're going to get to those. I want to go quickly to Scott in Greenbrier, West Virginia. He's listening on WSLW. Scott, go right ahead.
Hey, good to hear your voice there, buddy.
Yes,
anyway, I want to just mention how I felt like the only chance the Republicans have, in combating the Democratic strategies, and it's, the fact that the Senate is being controlled by the Democrats. I feel like the only thing that we can do as conservatives is actually expose the Democrats as much as possible to their, criminality and different things that are factual, but I think that's our only hope, is to bring out only the negative things about these guys, because we only have a certain amount of time. And like they're doing is they're milking the clock so that they can get away with it by the statute of limitations and whatnot.
Right, and of course, with the media not covering it as much or saying blah 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 and going with Dan Goldman's spin, it's kind of incumbent upon all of us, whether it's media or outside of media, to make sure that we give you the rest of the story. Because otherwise, you're only going to hear half the story. You might start to believe half the story, and then you just think that everything that is good and holy in life is actually wrong. So I think you raise a really good point. Now, Scott in Greenbrier, West Virginia, if you're performing on stage and somebody throws a half drank big gulp at you, what do you do? Do you throw the mic back?
You know, I'm one of these guys that I feel like if I were that professional, I would probably, you know, kind of think, how can I get back at this guy without, you know,
risking
hurting
yourself.
myself or myself in jail? But, you know, I was thinking I would probably wait for the right moment and throw a glass on him, you know, make it a part of the show.
Right. Yeah, not a bad point. And, you know, I watched this video, and that's the look that Cardi B has on her face. She looks like she gets incredibly frustrated, throws the mic, and then realizes, like, damn, I really can't do much more because I might, you know, really risk myself and my money. And, you know, only one of those people was making $20 million a year, and it wasn't the person throwing the ice cubes, you know? So, yeah, I agree. At some point you have to realize and go, you know what, it isn't worth it. But it's got to be frustrating. And yeah, good point. Work it into the show. Thank you, Scott. I appreciate it. Where are we gonna go here? We'll do one more call, then we'll take a pause, and we will wrap up with everybody else that's on there. Where do we go? Let's go to Tommy, Charleston, West Virginia, another West Virginian, WCHS. Go right ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Valdez. I salute my fellow West Virginian who preceded me. On the Cardi B thing, I think basically I see it as like a reflex reaction. Somebody assaults me in some fashion. A couple of seconds later, I assault them in some fashion.
Right.
And I
push
can't
me and push you back.
Yeah, I can't understand why this young woman is being subject to criticism, especially at a time, there's been several incidents of this sort where people seem to think it's perfectly okay to throw things at singers. Well, in the Madison Square Garden, et cetera, they'll toss you out of there and ban you, et cetera, and that's the way they should do. I think you should be locked up for simple assault when you do that. Now, let me say, I find it so strange that I'm celebrating National Avocado Day, and I like mine without the guacamole treatment. Nothing against guacamole, it's okay. I just want regular avocado. You carve it up, you scoop it out with a spoon, and there you go.
Yeah.
At
What
the
about
same
salt?
time-
Do you add a little salt and pepper?
No, I want my avocado just the way God made it. Like
I gotta
my
try
oatmeal.
that. I love avocados, but I always do a little dash of salt and pepper. No. So you're saying no seasoning on the avocado? None at all?
No, I just leave it alone. Now, the third and the really important point, okay? I can't understand, because I just saw Sound of Freedom a week ago. I can't understand how this movie is remotely controversial, as in some negative way. All it is an excellent piece of work overall by the filmmaker, and Mr. Caviezel does a fine performance as Agent Ballard, playing Agent Ballard. All this is a policeman, a federal agent. He worked on a lot of child pornography and sex trafficking related stuff for over a decade. And he gets in with this. He found a Colombian policeman who was simpatico. And they really went to work and did a nice job on protecting and rescuing these children who are the victims of a twisted criminal mentality. And I don't understand why people somehow find something wrong with this movie. This is the truth. And Agent Ballard, he's a man and a half and then some.
You know what, Tommy? I think you're 100% right. I haven't met him, but and I'm watching the film this weekend, this Saturday. But I can tell you, it's remarkable to me how some theaters are blocking the film. It's remarkable how they're taking interviews with Jim Caviezel off of the internet, off of YouTube. Just crazy what we're seeing. I appreciate your call. We're coming right back. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, we're back. It's Open Phone America. We're doing the speed round, so we got to be short, succinct, and to the point. Let's go to Raymond in Roseburg, Oregon, KQEN. Raymond, go right ahead.
Hey, Rich. I was listening to you were talking about that entertainer that threw the mic, and it kind of got me thinking about Miranda Lambert, the country singer.
Yes.
She had some fans in the audience in the front row, and they were trying to take selfies, and she stopped the song, and she called them out on it. And I just wanted to see what you thought, because it seems like for as long as she's been doing this, she should be used to people doing selfies all the time. It should be standard operating procedure for her,
Let me tell you something, Raymond. So I saw that video, and she literally was like, all right, I'm going to start again, folks, because they're like taking selfies. And I was embarrassed for everybody in that room. I couldn't believe that the level of, and again, I don't want to be judgmental. I don't know Miranda Lambert, and I'm sure she's a lovely woman, and I like her music. But when I saw that, I felt exactly like you did, and I thought, my goodness, I go to concerts. You pay good money to go to a concert. If I want to turn around and take a selfie because I want a picture with the person that I like singing over my shoulder in the background, I mean, what's up with that? Why would you single me out? And people got up and walked away because they were so taken aback by her behavior. And I think sometimes people get like that in the music business. Lamentably, this is, what I think that's one of those cases of she was being a diva in that case. I'm with you. Listen, I remember working at WABC Radio, and I'd met Tony Orlando, the world famous singer in Vegas. He's all over the place. And I remember when he told me, he said, listen to me, Rich. When somebody comes to you and says they want your autograph, and he says they don't really say that anymore. Now they want a selfie. But he said if it was, he said whether it was in Vegas or where I'm in New York, whatever it is, he said, I always stop. And he said, you should too. He said, remember, these people ultimately, they pay your bills, right? Without listeners on this program, there's no commercial radio. You're listening to a commercial because you enjoy this program, but I don't have a program if you're not listening to the show. So ultimately, we gotta have love for our fans, and I do. Like Brody in Pittsburgh, KDKA, Frank in Evergreen, Montana, KOFI, Robert in South Carolina on WTMA. I'm sorry I didn't get to you. I promise you guys go to the front of the line when we have open phones tomorrow, and I might even start open phones a little bit earlier tomorrow. So take care, good night, and God bless. Hasta la próxima. Until the next time, I am Rich Valdez. We'll do it all again tomorrow.